Hi, everybody. It's Tim Constantine from the Washington Times, joined by my good friend for America. He is Dave Bozell. Hi, Dave.
Hey, Tim. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. You know, the President of the United States is traveling in the Middle East. He's making a number of stops there.
Yeah.
And they're all Arab stops. This is not an Israel visit. And so I'm wondering your impressions. What is the purpose of this visit? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Or does it matter?
Oh, hey, absolutely it matters. I remember Trump 1.0. I think maybe his best speech during the entire first administration was during his Saudi Arabia trip. Of course, nobody saw it because it was in the middle of the night. But he also gave a terrific speech in Saudi Arabia this time around. You've seen essentially neoconservatism thrown into the ash bin of history. Donald Trump was quite forceful in admonishing those folks, particularly during the early 2000s, who thought sprinkling democracy seeds in some of these areas of the country was going to spread freedom and our way of life. And it did not work. And he made the case quite forcefully. Perhaps as important of a foreign policy message from an American president this century. So on the scale of things, yeah, I think it's critically important.
I think what's interesting here is contrasting the previous president, Biden, and the existing president, Trump, because President Biden's campaign team actively worked against Netanyahu when Netanyahu was running for re-election. So you had a president who the prime minister despised. So there was literally no relationship with the government of Israel during the Biden administration. But he was laughed at, if you remember, by the crown prince of Saudi Arabia when he went at the beginning of his administration and his policies were causing an increase in the price of oil. He asked the Saudi prince, as the representative of OPEC, to go ahead and increase oil production and lower prices. And two things happened. One, the crown prince literally laughed. And second, they cut production the following week and prices went up even further. Joe Biden had no friends in the Middle East, whether it was Arab or Jew. And I look at the president he's frustrated right now with Netanyahu, but he has a long-term relationship with Netanyahu and he's got great relationships with the Arabs. You've got a guy who really can bring people together.
Yeah, contrast that with President Trump. He has secured at least $300 million in investment from the Saudis. That could be upwards of $600 million. And then he's just midway through his trip, right? He's got Qatar, he's got UAE coming up. So this could be a $1 trillion haul for our country, which is a huge get. He had every major CEO from all walks of life lining up to shake his hand. Not that he couldn't do that here in the United States, but just the magnitude of every major big international CEO coming to greet the president and the crown prince. It's a huge get. He also secured the release of the last living American hostage out of Gaza, Edon Alexander, on the way over there. So and for my money, it checks a lot of boxes, right? If you're trying to measure success for a foreign policy venture, economic investment, secured the freedom of an American hostage, also kind of stiff arms, kind of creates a coalition that's ready to stiff arm Iran's nuclear ambitions. Check.
You know, the American media, of course, always looks for a reason to ignore anything that is triumphant in the Trump world. And he gave them a bit of an unforced error this week when the Qatar $400 million 747 temporary Air Force One gift was put out there for people to consider. He doesn't see any problem with it. Do you?
Not particularly. Gosh, Tim, it's so transparent how many Republicans are bought off by Boeing. Right? I mean, you could just see all these Republicans who are complaining, I don't really like the optics of the American president, flying in a foreign plane. Well, okay, I venture to guess that if you saw, how many contributions Boeing gave to this people, this is the reason why they're saying it. This silly criticism, well, what if they put a bug on the plane? of course our defense people are going to sweep it for bugs. I mean, you have to be really silly not to sort of consider that from the outset. But I think it's for Trump politically. Now, yeah, he got dinged a little bit in the press, but he doesn't mind that. And I think he's just taking notes, really. Okay, what Republicans, can I count on when I'm in a foxhole, when I really need them? And some people have revealed themselves to not be those guys that he can count on. And he's putting pressure on Boeing. I mean, this is taking too long. If anyone has been in the Oval with President Trump, they know he's got this big, beautiful model of the new Air Force One. And he's been waiting to show this off. And he's been promised for years that he's going to be able to show this off. And it hasn't happened. So doing this puts pressure on Boeing to get its act together. The American people have made that investment. It's time to see it on the runways.
You mentioned Iran, and his message to Iran was, look, we don't like you're doing X, Y, and Z. We don't like the way you're treating your neighbors. We don't like the nuclear threat. He has a list of things he doesn't like. However, he was, in my opinion, very diplomatic in saying what we'd really prefer is a peaceful solution. There's a timeline here, but we would like a peaceful, cordial, diplomatic, talkable solution that the two of us can work on. It doesn't include nuclear weapons for you, but we'd love for you to be able to work in the area. It's good not only for you and your people, it's good for the entire region. I saw this as a much more diplomatic Donald Trump than I saw 6 years ago. When I looked at how he spoke, he had that warning, he had that firm, stern manner about him saying, here are the problems and you can't do that. But at the same time, he's saying, this is what we want. We want it to go well. And here's why, because it'll be good for you and for everybody.
Yeah.
Do you see a difference in the guy, and what made that difference? Do you think, and I want to go back to an old episode of ours, do you think getting shot changed him? Changed how he saw the world, that yes, you have to be firm, but you know what? I really want people to be safe and happy.
Yeah, somewhat. Maybe not as pronounced as you see it. Remember, Iran shot down a drone of ours during Trump 1.0. And the entire defense apparatus wanted this uber proportional response, basically wanted boots on the ground in Tehran. And Trump kind of stiff-armed all of that, said, no, it's just a piece of metal, okay? So, we can afford to build another one. And I'm not risking American treasure over a piece of metal. And I think that's continued. The assassination attempt, obviously, is a part of this. But I actually think it's actually quite more simple than that, Tim. He's a golfer, right? He's done a zillion deals on the golf course. He's talked about these weighty issues on the golf course. I think he believes in his heart that if he could just talk to people, and then it would be a plus if he could do it on a golf course. But if not, if he can just talk to people, then treasure can be spared and lives can be spared. And I think
Tehran National Country Club.
Well, that'd be nice if they did. I mean, maybe the Trump Tehran, is maybe what he's angling for. I don't know, to be an uber cynic about it, but he actually kind of rolls off the tongue, Trump Tehran. But yeah, I just think in his heart of heart, he can convince anybody, because he's done so much of this stuff on the course. And I just think he wants to bring that kind of moxie to the foreign policy discussion. I think so far so good. I mean, we'll see with Ukraine and Russia. It seems to be at a critical mass here where we're going to get a peace deal within the next month or so, or this is going to be prolonged and he's not going to be able to pull this off. But I think he's just taking his golf course negotiating skills and conversational skills to foreign policy. It's as simple as that.
Final question on the Middle East trip, and that is he sat down with the interim president of Syria, who at one time was part of the Al-Qaeda network, now honestly appears to be a different guy and is working toward the future of his country. Certainly appears to be a step up, though it wasn't a huge bar from Bashar al-Assad. So how important is that in bringing about stability in that whole region? Everybody's not sure what's going to happen in Syria. Is giving some credibility to them by the President of the United States, giving some credibility to them. Does that stabilize the entire area?
Well, I hope so. Look, we were just discussing Trump's diplomatic approach to Iran. Look, we've spent the better part of the last month destroying, just wiping the Houthis off the map. And so I hope the new Syrian regime kind of saw that and said, I don't need any piece of that. I'm sure they did. And they're willing to play nice in this sandbox. So, and it helps. Again, this trip has been uber helpful. It helps to have the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, all these business leaders, looking across the landscape and say, Iran, Syria, enough of this. We are going to build a better, prosperous region here, with or without you.
For America, he is David Bozell. I'm Tim Constantine. Thanks for joining us.